Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 505. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Season 11 continues with Donkey Kong for the Nintendo Game Boy. But first, Matt, what is your favorite arcade game of all time?
No pressure.
Yeah.
If you would have given me an era, this would have been easier. Like,
If
I'm
I
not
gave you a
good at.
stack of quarters, what would give you a stack of quarters? You know what I'm saying?
There's something about a good Time Crisis game,
Hey,
Hell
alright.
yeah.
and I'm not good at it. But there's also like every time I see a Galaga, I feel like I gotta put in a couple quarters and die instantly.
Yeah, it's you have to. Good answer. Mark?
Would we allow a game I've never played? But I know I would love.
Because I think the arcade experience is sometimes meant to be one of a spectator's experience, but also I think appreciation of a great arcade game, not only of the mechanics itself, but also of the art on the cabinet. So, yeah, hit me.
All right. Well, actually, first I'll be a little more fair. I'll do two. I will. One that I've played. Yeah, I mean, damn, Matt had a good answer. They're like something about rail shooters. I will always play and adore.
Yeah.
Anything with a peripheral that's more than a joystick, for sure. But since you said that one, wow, did I not realize it till now that I think it might be Jurassic Park.
Is that
That OG one.
the
Yeah.
one in the...
Jeep?
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
But or yeah. I'll say that, and then for the one that I haven't played, or technically have played, but not in an arcade. Whenever I get the damn chance, I know for sure F-Zero AX will be
Oh, man.
my favorite arcade game.
Oh,
You know,
Daytona USA is a classic as well.
Yep, that is also
you
a
should
good one.
investigate F-Zero AX a little bit. There are ways you can revive that. I mean, you can't get the full experience with like taking your GameCube memory card. Like that would be the way to do it. But
Yeah, I mean, and I would be able to if MagFest didn't have a line that was like 4 hours long. I've been right in front of the machine. I've gotten close, but I could
There's
never
that.
play it.
No, but I think Dolphin even has it built right in where you can just turn on AX mode for F-Zero and then voila.
Oh, it's not the same. You gotta be in the
I
vehicle. You gotta move around.
You gotta be able to show your moves. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, I asked this question, gentlemen, because honestly, I think Donkey Kong is my favorite arcade game. Like, probably, like, there's a ton that I will gravitate towards, and these days I find myself oft chasing pinball. But I felt like when arcades sort of had this soft revival is a strong word, but I would say as we've sought out more arcades in the last 10 to 15 years, Donkey Kong's always the one where I'm like, do they have Donkey Kong? Oh, sick, great, I'm gonna go play that for a bit. Not good at it, no Steve Wiebe over here, but quite appreciate the Kong. And I oft come back to Donkey Kong, the arcade Donkey Kong, as a source of inspiration. I love the thought that, or the quote from Miyamoto, where he pointed out that he thought it all up while in the bath. And I find myself, if my mind starts to wander on an idea, if I'm in the shower, I think me and Miyamoto are one and the same right now, and I picture him in the bath, and I picture me in the shower, and I think about Donkey Kong most times I shower. That, however, is not the game we're talking about today. We're talking about its sequel or reboot, or I don't know. I would consider this probably Donkey Kong 4 if I were being generous. We did have direct sequels to Donkey Kong, the arcade game. This one would come to Game Boy, aptly just titled Donkey Kong, period. Developed by Nintendo EAD with Pax Softnica. Published by Nintendo for the Game Boy. First released June 14th, 1994. The back of the box reads, Donkey Kong's adventures continue with new tricks and traps for Mario. Donkey Kong returns to Game Boy. This famous ape has kidnapped Pauline and climbed to the top of a perilous skyscraper. Challenged by many perils and unending puzzles, Mario must reach his arch rival. As he makes his way, Mario will need to gather disappearing keys to unlock doors of hidden rooms. Donkey Kong devises evil tricks to confuse and trap him. Our heroic plumber has his hands full this time. Matt, this was your contribution for the month of May. And this was something you owned as a child, is this correct?
Yes, I owned this as a child.
And I say the 2023 season 11, the year of Matt Game Boy games, continues.
Yes.
This one though, it's a weird one. Like it. So what did we hit already? We had WWF Betrayal was early in the year.
Yeah, I never played that one. That was gotta get a WWF game on the board.
We did that. We did Metal Gear Solid. It was just called Metal Gear Solid for Game Boy. Ghost Babel and other territories. We did Resident Evil Gaiden.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it so far. Yeah.
Yes. I think.
I can't recall now. I have the list.
I'm struggling.
No, I have it in front of me. I don't know why I wasn't just looking at it, looking to my left monitor.
Because I did Def Jam. I was going to say, what's the console game then? But okay,
yeah.
That's the 4.
Yeah, so this is our fourth one. Weirdly enough, of those other games, this one feels like a lot more in a way. I don't know why. Like, Metal Gear was a full Metal Gear game. Like, it is a full adventure of Snake. It's a whole beginning and end, and every level is dynamic and different, and there's weapons you equip. But, like, something about this game, and maybe it's partially because I've been playing it since December when we had revealed the list to one another, and I got my Analog Pocket in the mail, and that was like the first thing I put in my pocket and started playing, and haven't taken it out since. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just feels longer because of that. Maybe because the game truly never feels like it ends. But I feel like this one just has a lot to it. So we'll kind of run through our first experiences with the game, most recent experiences with the game. We will discuss what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. We'll close out with a little bit of where the series has gone since we last saw Donkey Kong. And then, at the end of the episode, we rank this against our list, which you can follow along with at thefreakcheese.com/thelist. All right, Donkey Kong. Matt, why did this one make the cut?
So yeah, I talked about going back to the Game Boy. I have a little bit of a little theme going on here so far in the year. But this is the one I think I definitively remember I probably playing the most. I don't know what it was about it. It just, it's short, simple, but complex and challenging all at the same time. You all didn't know me back then, but I was a little brat when I got mad at games, and this brought it out of me. Yeah, I just remember this being a good game, a classic. And this was, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later, but I remember playing this an awful lot on my Super Game Boy peripheral on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, and seeing all the cool colors and the palette swaps and things like that, it was able to pull off compared to the regular Game Boy. This was something I played a lot, and I remember it finally. I really hadn't played it since maybe having a Game Boy Color. It's been a long time since I revisited the game, and I just reminisced fondly about it. I wanted to see if that still held up.
You say that we didn't know you as a child with the reactions, but I did get a taste of it when we did Matt Never Played Shovel Knight, our Yeah, so listeners out there, if you want a taste of what happens when Matt gets frustrated up against a game, got that well documented. Did you ever go back to Plague Knight, or was that just...
No, it wasn't because I just never went back to it. It wasn't because of frustration or anything. I just never got into that series as much as you two.
Yeah, it was good.
It looked cool. I just never.
Yeah, I think I gotta be in the mood for it.
Yeah. So, I'd never owned this as a child, but I think it was that flea market video game shop that we would go to. And Mark, I think like the first or second time we went there, I bought a ton of Game Boy games. You bought a GameCube. I bought Game Boy. That's
That time. Yeah.
That game. Yeah, I know. Anyway, yeah, I bought a bunch of Game Boy games, and I remember holding Metroid 2 and Donkey Kong and something else in my hands and being like, I don't know, like they were all like $10 a piece, and I had like a bunch of stuff, and then I was also like combing through all that big bin of GBA games they had just for like $3. Just take them, who cares?
Yeah.
It was just all Mary-Kate and Ashley games, but I got that Donkey Kong game because I remember hearing like this is supposed to be good. Like very good, and no one talks about it. I bought it, and I remember taking it home and playing it. I was like, well, Mario can jump weird, but this is just the arcade game on Game Boy. All right. And I played through like the first few stages, and that was that for a few years. Mark, what was your first experience with Donkey Kong for the Game Boy?
I will say about a month or two ago on my 3DS. Got the Virtual Console game, and
Right, they did put that out there.
Yeah, and I was like pretty similar to your experience with it initially, and then I realized how quickly things changed.
Yeah, so for the listeners who've not played it, you should check it out, although right now there's no easy way to do it unless you go out and find a cart. Granted, the carts are relatively inexpensive, so there is that option. But I would assume this like has to be on the Switch. Like, I would be surprised if even by the time this episode goes up in a couple days, if Nintendo doesn't just do one of their hot little like, here's the
This will
month's
get there
games.
eventually.
Yeah, this is going to be on that Game Boy collection on Switch, no doubt. So just hang tight if you're hearing this and you're like, boy, I really want to play it. The game starts out, you just play Donkey Kong. Climb the thing, stop the Donkey Kong, save the Pauline. Except you don't. He carries her away, never to return. And then it opens up, and then every stage kind of becomes I'm sorry, they're more like world, right? You end up in a world that has a series of stages, and then every stage contains a key, a locked door, and 3 optional collectibles. You have to get the key, you have to carry the key to the locked door in order to unlock the door and move on to the next stage. If you do get the 3 optional items, then you're thrown into a post-stage minigame to earn a varied amount of extra lives or bonus lives. Then there's checkpoints within each world where you must fight Donkey the Kong. So some of those kind of ape back to the old arcade style, like where you have to kind of mimic what's happening in the old arcade game. Others, they're just sort of new platforming challenges, but most involve you grabbing barrels that are being thrown at you, platforming up, and throwing them back at Donkey Kong until you've out-Konged the Kong. Or really until he just grabs Pauline and takes her to the next stage. And then on you go. And yeah, that was kind of a surprise. Like, oh wait, this game has depth. And then it just kind of kept going. Which, to be fair, over the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, maybe last month-ish, in prep for recording this episode, I started to make it I left my pocket at my bedside table, and it was my either like go to bed and do a level or wake up and do a level before I get out of bed kind of thing. Usually the go to bed thing, because I'd wake up and just want to go have coffee and not play Donkey Kong. But it's a good, like, you can just do it. I don't know. It's the same way to me. And this game really felt like the way that someone might read a newspaper on a train. I feel like in its time, this game would have been like the newspaper. Like, I'm just going to do this while I'm on my commute. Like, I'll do a couple levels and move on. I feel like for the 3DS, this would have been a perfect game to do that with, because especially you can just like clamshell and move on. This game does have a battery inside of it, the original cartridge, but you are locked into saving only after each of those aforementioned Donkey Kong boss fights. So if you completed 2 stages and turned off your Game Boy, you're going to have to do those 2 stages again. If you turn it off after Donkey Kong, you're good. I guess, what was your overall... Do you remember, Matt, back then? Like, what was your connection to the game, or how did you receive, its new worlds? But did it not even dawn on you what was happening?
It kind of did dawn on me what was happening. I don't think I realized there was an arcade game Donkey Kong, because I think at this point I more know Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country. I didn't I don't think I really realized, like, oh, hey, these are the first levels from the arcade game. I don't think I realized that until a little bit later in life. But no, like, it just felt like a challenged puzzle game. Like, you know, just move from stage to stage to stage. And I could never tell you where I probably stopped multiple times at or whatever. I don't remember those ice levels. It's probably for the best. Yeah, I just, I would get so far. I remember playing through the forest levels, which is like, I think like the first world after the original arcade games. And I think there isn't the next one, like the city, level. I don't remember the order of the levels right now, but like, I kind of remember finally going through those levels, and, but I remember it being challenging. I remember it getting stuck and, dying. And I just don't know if I had some of the, thoughts to maybe put some of the puzzles together in the game, but I just remember I have fun playing it for the most part. And it was like perfect, like you said. It was, even if I had to wait until after the Donkey Kong stage. I mean, it's not like these stages are like Mario World or Mario Land levels where they can take a few minutes. They're all on timers. I think the longest one I saw was like 250 seconds, something like that. 200. But most of them, I mean, that's some of them. Most of them, I think, are under that, like 150 or whatever. So, like, even if you're up against the time limit, which if you kind of know the level, you kind of breeze through it well before the time limit is over. You kind of get through that section of levels in about 5 or 10 minutes or so. Then you can save it and turn it off and switch to something else, go play something else, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of what I remember about it. I don't remember much. I just remember liking this game.
Yeah, I think overall it's a solid, just, again, it's something you can just kind of play, jump in, jump out, and return to, I think, endlessly. Mark, did you find it easy to play in 2023?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I guess easy as in, like, it's easy to get the concept of the game and try to, like, figure out what to do. It might be, like, 1 or 2 little things that probably seemed a little, maybe, confusing at first when you pick up those, I don't know if I call them power-ups exactly, but there's, like, those little, like, arrow icons where, like, a bridge or a ladder can get set up in a level. Like, it feels kind of Mario Maker-ish.
Yes.
In a way. So, I don't know, prior to Mario Maker, had I known what the hell those things do. Or, like, how to properly use them. But yeah, just trying, like, as far as, like, mechanics go, I don't think it was anything too complicated. But there was definitely like techniques to Mario I did not realize most of the way through, which is impressive.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that's unique about this game then, because I think you bring up a good point. One, there's those stage modifiers where you have ladder extenders or just ladders period, where you can just kind of drop a ladder in somewhere. You have the things that make a bridge left or right, so that you can kind of like, well, they use it for different puzzle opportunities. Springs are another one, or they're sort of like, is that what they call them? It's not like I guess spring is the easiest to describe it. If you're familiar with Donkey Kong, they are in the original Donkey Kong. You can't use them; they just get thrown at you. But they're there. So yeah, there's those items. Am I missing one of those other stage specific ones?
I can't remember.
I think it's just left, right, up, down, and spring. I think those are the only ones.
Yeah.
That sounds
and
right.
then Mario is unique in this game, or at least unique for this time. Kind of predating, well, definitely predating what we would later see in Mario 64. Mario gets some kind of, it's not a double jump, but it's like if you do a like wahoo, you can kind of like almost hear Charles Martinet while you're playing this. But like you jump and you jump again, and like he does like a spring jump, depending on your timing of jumps. But he'll also do the handstand jumps. If you jump, what do you hold up and jump? He'll do a handstand, or is it down and jump?
Down and jump.
Down and jump. He gets on his hands. And then when you jump again, it's this huge, like, extra high jump. And you do have to use that for certain levels. Like, it's a requirement at some points. Not all, but it's definitely something you need to get good at doing.
And then you have the quick backwards flick jump, too.
Yeah, like the little, like, 180, like,
yes.
somersault, whatever.
Were you doing all of that as a kid, Matt, or is that...
Hell no. There's a reason why I struggled with this game probably as a kid. I mean, I remember doing the handstand because, I mean, that is necessary, not just for jumping, but there are some sections with Donkey Kong where you have to use that to kind of stop the projectile coming at you. But no, that's kind of one of the things kind of coming back that I don't think appreciate was the complexity and how much of... I didn't know if it was new to this title or not, but like how those jumps are second nature in 3D Marios now.
Yeah, you really don't think about them at all, but you know them inherently.
There is definitely like... There's something a little jarring at the same time with Mario when it comes to like the Donkey Kong series. It's like you have so now you have all these tricks, which is great, but I feel like it clashes with the Donkey Kong series when it comes to Mario, or should I say Jumpman, depending on the game. Like Mario's normal jump sucks. Like, especially after being spoiled with, Super Mario Brothers, 1, 2, and 3, and like Mario has great perfected jumps, and then they like took that away from you when it comes to this, and having fall damage is a little can be a little off-putting, but also hard to calculate because you don't know when exactly, like when you're screwed versus when like maybe you'll do like a cartoony, like you'll land upside down with like your foot twitching, but you didn't lose a life. Or if you can somehow perfect it, you can do like a tuck and roll after falling so far. So there are ways, I guess, to combat it at least this time around compared to the original arcade game. But yeah, just Mario having like a limited basic jump and fall damage can be a little off-putting to some people who have probably never played this before and are coming from, the console Mario games.
No, yeah, that's a good point, because he's definitely different. There's a little small Easter egg at the end that explains maybe why he doesn't jump a bit. I'll save that for people who've not
completed
the game. But the fall damage is definitely not like you can jump off of anything. I mean, you're literally jumping off clouds in Mario 3 and, hitting the ground running.
You don't have bones.
But the what?
So you don't have bones.
Yeah, no, he's just filled with mushroom. So yeah, you take Mario's newfound skill sets of jumping around in different directions and angles and from his hands. You work your way from the construction site to the big city, and then you sort of follow Donkey Kong on this whole global journey. Forest, ship, jungle, desert, airplane, iceberg, rocky valley, and ending it all at tower. Which is very apt for Donkey Kong. I love it too that like this is not long after Nintendo has this big court case with Universal Pictures regarding King Kong, and they kind of get all that settled thanks to lawyer special Jack Kirby. And they're like, yeah, we didn't rip off Donkey Kong or King Kong with Donkey Kong, not at all. But we will now that we won the case. Like, fully just kind of put him out there. So, yeah, did either of you have a favorite stage or a least favorite stage? Or both?
The iceberg level sucks. It's not just because of the slippery platforms making it challenging, which is always a staple in a ice level, especially in Mario. No, a couple of the levels had like a hidden door, and it just felt like there was not a good way to find a hidden door, especially in one level. You were kind of up to guessing where it was and using the platforms and the ladders to find one in particular, which just felt weird. So I guess so with the ladders and the floors that you make, they will stop at the intersection of a power-up or another platform or something like that. So in this level in particular, you don't know where the door is to use the key. So and there's these power-ups all over it, and it's really just a blank canvas of a level, and you just have all these power-ups you can choose from. You kind of have to use these power-ups to guess and figure out where the lock is based on where they stop being built. And it's kind of that stage in particular. It was just like it's not challenging. It just felt like a guessing game, and the only thing that made it hard was the fact that you had to find the perfect spot. It was like a game of Battleship. Like, you're inevitably going to find it. It's just a matter of how long and is it going to be before the timer runs up. That one in particular was kind of like, this isn't your strongest level. But no, the ice is always makes it tough. The aircraft stuff introduces the wind. It just some of those things that, you kept adding levels and levels. They had to find a new challenge, and they started leaning into that environmental stuff, which it's tough to play. It makes it challenging for sure.
I think I've struggled.
Which part?
Sorry. In all of them. I just struggled the whole way. but I don't know. Nintendo is really good at doing, I guess, tutorial-esque levels. And I think it was a good way to ease you into the rest of it, but then it didn't transition after that. Maybe not as well. So I think I guess shout out to the beginning portion.
I kind of liked how they used the cutscenes too. So from stage to stage, you kind of just like went from level to level. But after a DK, there would be a DK stage. There would kind of be some explanation to how you got to either like the next part of the stage or whatever. And it was usually some kind of cutscene with Donkey Kong running from right to left and Mario chasing shortly behind him, but then kind of showing off a mechanic. Sometimes it was brand new, especially when you were entering a brand new level environment. It was some kind of brand new thing. Or kind of just like a subtle reminder of something from before that you may not have been using. Like I completely, like later in the game, there's a cutscene where it shows Mario doing the handstand and a barrel hits his feet, and instead of it continue to fall, it finally kind of like falls over for you to pick up and be able to throw. And I was like, oh, right, I can do that. And that is kind of nice in those scenarios where, like, you put down the game for a couple days and you can't remember every stacking mechanic. So it was kind of nice to see some of that. It didn't happen all the time, and some mechanics, you kind of have to, like, learn how to best use them. But I thought that was clever. I mean, it was better than moving from level to level without, Donkey Kong takes Pauline and we're going to the next stage. It was kind of cool seeing those cutscenes.
Yeah, and it gave the game a different narrative. Like, there's always that narrative in the Donkey Kong Mario relationship or Jumpman relationship, but to see them continue that and make sure it was still important. And I think every Mario game has. It's gonna sound silly, but every Mario game has a story. Some of them, I think, post 64 especially, are more apparent, but I mean, they're there all throughout. Some of them are different than others. Like Mario 3 is obviously like this whole stage play they're putting on in the Mushroom Kingdom. But this is no different than that, and I appreciated that element for sure. I guess one thing we didn't talk about. So I knew when I got to the plane, the rest of this game was going to be tough. Like, it was not going to be, because I felt like up until that point, like through the desert, like it's really just about puzzle solving in terms of how am I going to get up this thing to that key and get it back to this door. But it was not so much about how am I going to do all of that and fight the environment. Now all of a sudden with the plane, we're fighting wind. With the iceberg, you have to like very specifically move and melt ice sections and be intentional about what you're doing and where. And but I know that one part that was really neat, I think it happened, now I don't remember if it was in the airplane stage or the desert or I don't remember. But you start to get to, earlier on you have sections where there's wires that Mario shimmies across and you have to swing, and he does that kind of swing up. There's one point you get to where the wire is diagonal. Mm-hmm. And I had the toughest time. Did either of you get that right away, or am I the only idiot?
No.
Okay.
You're not the
I was like, I think I swung up on the one, and then I was like, what do I do now? And I think they tell you how to do it, like earlier in the stage. There's a section that's like walks you through, like, just do this, idiot. But when I got to the one part to like really swing over the top of the stage, I was staring at it forever, like, what am I? Oh, right. Oh, I can go to. Okay, I got it. And then I made it happen and whatever. But yeah, I loved how they just kind of kept, and even the iceberg. Like I know I'm complaining about that and the plane, the wind, and whatnot, but like it was nice that there's still another level with a new challenge and a new opportunity to learn a new something in this game. Had it been just, well, now this one's got ice, it would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been what it was. So, yeah, I don't know. Did we miss any other?
I wanted to say, we talked about the challenge of this game, and we kind of mentioned how you can get the bonus lives, but you also got bonus lives at the end of every section. With Donkey Kong, depending on your score and your time remaining at the end of each stage. So that would be calculated, and then added together at the end of the chunk of 4. So it'd be 3 regular stages and a Donkey Kong stage. Based on your time remaining, it would be added up, and for every 100 plus the remainder, you would get an extra life. So that coupled with the bonus collectibles, which the bonus, there are some stages where the bonus collectibles are super out of the way and you have to like really try to get them. For the most part, they're kind of just like, well, if I just jump on this platform and then go to this platform, I can kind of get all 3. With that, I just feel like the game is very gracious with lives. So yes, it is challenging, but even at my height of dying the most in this game, I still had like 70 lives. Like I had some bank to get through a frustrating section. And yes, it sucks like dying for the first time 6 times in a row, but I kind of look back at my counter and like, all right, well, I guess technically if I can figure this out within 50 tries, I will still have 20 lives left. So I think I'll be in a good position. So I just wanted to call it, yes, this game is challenging, but I think there is ample opportunity to get lives if you just put in a tiny bit of extra effort.
Or, if you're on Virtual Console, you just save scum.
You can save scum, yeah. I was trying to play fair. I was even stopping my my sessions on Donkey Kong levels to try to relive the experience.
I played on the Pocket with the actual cartridge, and the Pocket does support save state. So I was trying to get to Donkey Kong as many opportunities as I could, but in any of those moments where I was like, all right, I'm not getting through this level, or whatever, I would save state simply for the fact that putting the Pocket to sleep still drains battery pretty quickly on that thing. But if you fully turn it off, it'll shut down. Right. Did run into some trouble, though, with that, just for those with an analog Pocket out there playing this. Had a few times where if I'd made a save state like at the start of a level, because maybe I like went through, didn't solve it, died, and then it started me back at the beginning, and I was like, all right, save state, dip, let's go do something else with my life. Those save states didn't work. So I found that save states on the stage selection screen were always fine, always going to work, but sometimes I'd go to reload them and they just wouldn't load. Granted, that could have been weird firmware or something with the Pocket, but just, one thing to note if you're out there playing. But cart saves worked every time, so that was, that was good. I do want to point out where this series went. So obviously after Donkey Kong, the arcade and its history and everything, Donkey Kong became Donkey Kong Jr. We had Donkey Kong Jr. We had Donkey Kong 3 hit. We had Donkey Kong, this Game Boy game hit. Rare would take the franchise in a different direction and ruin it with Donkey Kong Country, but eventually,
wow,
I had to shoot my shot. You know what I'm saying? Had to get out there. Those games are fine. I'm just being fun. The thing I don't like at all is that a lot of people, including the internet, but I think even Nintendo itself, considers the Mario versus Donkey Kong spin-off series a sequel to Donkey Kong 94, and I disagree. Have you guys played the Mario versus Donkey Kong games?
This is really the only Donkey Kong. Actually, I will say this is probably the only Donkey Kong game I've played because I really haven't played a Donkey Kong Country.
Matt, damn it. I've played the first one, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I could see why it would be a sequel. Like, you still got to get a key and get to the door or whatever, and you still have those like little acrobatic moves, but so it feels familiar in a concept like stage sense, but the mechanics are so different because of the little minis and stuff that you have. I feel like that just changes everything up. It kind of makes it its own thing.
Yeah, I think I played the Game Boy Advance, the original like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and then I played, oh gosh, whatever the one was for 3DS, Minis on the Move, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I forget. There's one that was like downloadable only, and then they had like an actual cartridge based one.
Yeah, and I don't know. They're a different type of puzzle platforming, but they're not quite like what we had in this Game Boy game. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys remember those rumors a couple years ago that were probably just Nintendo trying to sniff out leakers and dumping fake info on the internet, like that Starbucks Grand Prix thing, and
oh man, sting
like
operations.
Maybe that was real. I don't know, but the other one was that there was potentially a big Donkey Kong reboot happening. I think 2020, or that it was coming like last year or something. That never happened, but I'd always hoped that they would kind of pick up where this Game Boy game left off and do another big, cool 2D platformer that, wouldn't sell as much as Mario Odyssey, but still, I think would be a neat style game. So, I don't know.
Oh man, especially if you like made it in the art style of was it Wario Land Shake It? What was the Wii one?
That sounds right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but they just having like that like
Wario
2D.
Right?
No.
Yeah,
the Wario platformer.
Yeah, I think Wario Land Shake It sounds right.
Yeah, if it was like in that style too, that would be really enjoyable.
That is the one. Yeah, him with a yep. Yeah, so the other big thing I liked with this is there's so much programming in this game. Just kind of like watching how all the systems worked. I love that like in a Game Boy game, it was able to account for every era of Donkey Kong, but it also created a world of its own. That's something that stood out to me pretty immediately, and then like just reinforced that idea with every stage you played, with every new level you unlocked. I just loved all of the small little gameplay elements that added up to this one whole experience. I just, overall, I know I haven't been very vocal this episode about my adoration for this title, but I really like this game. I think this is definitely one of the best games Nintendo has made. And I'm gonna keep spinning the broken record, but I lament the loss of dedicated handhelds immensely when I play games like this. And it's like, boy, remember what they used to have to think of to do within limited confines. One other thing to talk about before we close out, Matt, you mentioned the Super Game Boy, which, yeah, there's a pretty neat overlay. Do you want to talk about what that one was?
Oh, the arcade border? Yes. I mean, you can go into detail of it, but yeah, it's the border, and the bottom bit of the border kind of just mimicked the I guess the Donkey Kong arcade machine. Legitimately, right? Not the Billy Mitchell version.
Yeah, no, this is real. Yeah, it adds just like a nice little like pixel border it's cool. I wish that I'm pretty sure, well, I know that the Mr. community has kind of replicated this stuff with Super Game Boy, but this is the stuff when like we get into emulation. And I'm talking about like paid emulation, like, you sign up for these Game Boy services on Nintendo Switch or whatever, or Hamster Arcade Archives, any of those things. Like, I wish that more emulation stuff would go back and do extra things like this just to kind of enhance the experience a bit. I know it's like not the most revolutionary whatever, but it's just a neat little touch that you get something extra for having something extra.
And on top of that, in that Super Game Boy version, Pauline's voice is actually an audio file of someone saying help versus the Game Boy cry.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But after hearing it, I kind of prefer just the Game Boy sound.
Oh,
it's piercing.
Yeah. But it's a nice little touch.
Yeah. Do we rank this now? Have we hit the moment in time?
Yeah, I think I got all I wanted to say.
Let's rank it.
For the listeners who maybe missed it at the top of the show, if you're just tuning in, you can follow along with the list at thefreecheese.com/thelist. Made that nice and easy for you. And yeah, we're gonna rank it as we always do. We find a sweet spot. We toggle up and down. We see if it's above or below some of the previous entries that act as our milestones, and call it an episode. I'm struggling on this one. I feel like I like came in looking at the list like right ready to shoot. There it is, but then I'm like, nah, not quite. Nah, not quite.
I think I have a spot. I'm not married to it, so feel free to. I'm not going to take any disagreements to heart. Obviously, I'm fine. This might be one of the few games where I'm probably not going to have a hard time disagreeing, or have a hard time agreeing where it goes. I think I'm kind of fine with this kind of being mostly anywhere.
Yeah,
but, that being said, my gut reaction was to have it like right around Mass Effect 2, which is currently number 31 on our list.
Okay.
I was kind of, because I think I like Mass Effect 2 a little more in ways, but I'm fine with it being above it. Like even somewhere in the 20s, I could see this game landing there too. But just my gut reaction was to have it like at the new like 32 slot or something.
I like 32. Did you have a gut, Matt?
I was actually quite high on this game.
Okay. Yeah,
I was thinking somewhere teens, maybe even higher, but
I can see that too.
I just think, when it's the Game Boy, but for what it pulled off on the Game Boy and how it plays on the Game Boy, I think it's quite impressive. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, it can go on, but
But I think too, like the parts where like the game might be bad, I don't necessarily think the game is bad. I think it's that I was burning myself out on playing it.
Yeah,
I think like if you treat
that.
this truly like my newspaper metaphor, where you just like approach it from time to time, it's a casual thing you check in with, and you eventually will get through it. I really think this is a special. I think it's special regardless, but I think that any of my negative feelings toward it were my own doing, right? Like,
yeah, because my approach to playing it, I was kind of going through, like maybe not the whole level, but a section or two of it, like a night, or in one sitting, up to the point where I started to feel it. I really didn't have like a bad experience until I realized that I scheduled how much I should have had done at a certain point and try to cram it all in, and then that's when I was like, this is becoming frustrating because I was becoming impatient because I had to get through like 6 sections to try and finish this game, and it wasn't going to happen. So
it's like if someone told you like, hey, I need you to turn in this entire book of Sudoku by tomorrow. Like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But individually, those things, you could do them for a year, man, and have a great time.
Yeah.
And it would be good. But yeah, that, I'm with you. My gut was high, and then I looked at this and I'm like, nah. And before Mark threw out 31, 32, my gut was landing right around 17, 18. Which, for the listeners who are not looking, that is right around Parasite Eve, Hypnospace Outlaw, Def Jam Fight for New York's right there. Burnout's just above everything. I felt like Burnout 3 was a little bit stronger than this. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe this is higher than Burnout. See, this is where we get stupid. Because I'm like, I like this over Max Payne. I like this over Undertale. I like it over WWF. I think I like it over Downwell. Maybe I don't like it over Rez. Maybe Rez is my line. Maybe this is 11 for me.
See, I was doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, I like this over No Mercy. I like this over Downwell. And I was like, Rez. But I looked at the next one. I was like, I like this better than Sin and Punishment. So that's kind of why I can see myself creeping up there. But I'm also like, I am quite happy with this being the new 17, right under Burnout 3, and
That's my
right
ceiling.
above Parasite Eve. I feel like that is the happy middle ground for all of us, and it does
We,
make
right.
sense there.
if we like 17, I'm gonna do it before things get stupid.
Oh, Parasite Eve got bumped.
Hey, make a new game, Square.
And don't
Well,
call it the fourth birthday. Buy back the rights. Get that settled.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want to say about this game. Like Nintendo EAD, like if y'all listeners, if you're not familiar, you should check their history. But
Yeah,
it's
they've done
definitely a
some
group,
stuff.
definitely a group that knew their shit.
Yeah, they've completed some work. Well, that's Donkey Kong. And that's the last game we add to the list this month. Listeners, you can check out thefreecheese.com on the first of every month to see a full breakdown of what our schedule looks like. But if you've not done that, we can tell you right now that next week we'll be back with a spin-off episode. Spin-off? That's not what it is. A non-game specific episode.
A Gaiden episode.
Thank you. Yes. A Gaiden. A little side story for us all. We're going to talk about companionship in games. This week we rescued one. The last week we worked alongside of one. And the week before that we made many friends and did what we could to save and help everybody. So we're going to wrap all of that up in a nice episode about companionship in video games. And then with episode 507, we'll close out the month with a history of speedrunning. Or really just speedrunning as a topic for 3 of them. So stay tuned for all of that. And we'll see you next week with 506. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening.